I'd like to call this Public Works Committee meeting to order for Tuesday, August 14th. And our first order of business is roll call and determination of quorum. When you're ready.
Drew.
Here.
Scott. Here. Modrick.
Here.
Roberts. Nordstrom. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next up is the adoption of the agenda. Could I hear a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Modrick, second by Nordstrom. All in favor?
Aye.
And the agenda is adopted. Now it's time for general public comment, a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the committee on any issue not limited to items on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the aldermen present. And we have one general public comment, and that is Al McPherson. If you could please state your name again and your address, please.
Al McPherson at 5311 Dan Christie Lane. About 3 years ago, the city built a drainage ditch off of Enchantment Road. If you're familiar with Enchantment Hills, it is the hill where at the top, down to where our corner is, we're at the corner of Enchantment Road and Dan Christie. About halfway down, they built the ditch, and to alleviate the rainwater, excessive rainwater that comes down there, and that drainage ditch takes it over theoretically to a pond and a little ways from there. As you can see, there is some water, but if you look closely, you'll see that the water is bouncing off and continuing down Enchantment Road. They actually dug a ditch. They dug a ditch, and it began to overgrow, and so really there was no water leaving that at all. It even becomes more extreme. The problem that occurs here is when that rainwater comes down to our corner, it brings all these little rocks on the corner, and we've had to sweep them away at times, and the city also. But it floods that corner, comes around our corner, and goes down to Katrin, and there's enough water that crosses at Katrin also. This is our corner here, so you can see that the water is running pretty good. And these are just some of the rocks, and it even gets worse than that. On a recent rain, it didn't just bring rocks, it brought garbage cans and so on. Again, if you look closely here, you'll see that there's so much water it doesn't even drain off of Dan Christie, and it crosses Dan Christie Road. I'd just like to, we alleviated as much as we could by building a wall on our yard there, about 110 feet long, about 5.5 inches wide. We've also put in larger rocks, so the rocks that are coming to that corner are someone else's. So I'd like to see if the city could fix the problem. A dirt ditch just isn't going to work. It needs to be something better. So I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McPherson. That brings us on to the consent items part of the agenda. And we've got consent items 1 through 13. Public comment is now opened for items 1 through 13. I don't have any slips. Seeing no one seems to want to talk about that, that's fine. So public comment is now closed. We'll go to items 1 through 13 and open that up to council members here to poll items they need to have further discussion on. And Lisa Modrick.
Item 9.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm pulling item 10. Seeing no other lights.
Go ahead. Except for 9 and 10.
Motion by, by Nordstrom and a second by Scott to approve the remainder with the exceptions of 9 and 10. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And the agenda is approved. So we're going to pull a couple items here. We're going to start with number 9. Authorize mayor and finance officer to sign professional services agreement between the City of Rapid City and Renner Associates LLC for Tower Court Stormwater Outfall Stabilization Project number 18-2455/CIP number 51203 in the amount of $31,730.90. And Chair recognizes Lisa Moldrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I ask a question to Dale Tack?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi, Dale. I know that this project's probably been on the books for quite a while to get that stabilization stormwater outfall in place on this location. However, due to our wets and our rains, it's a very unstable hillside, and I wanted to know how you were going to address that before we spend $31,000 on this project.
That's the purpose for the project. A number of years ago, the City of Rapid City did hire Renner to take a look at the hillside and the inadequate design by the developer, in my opinion, on the stormwater outfall. So a downspout system was looked at, so the water will be piped more or less all the way down the hill to preclude any more erosion from occurring. And that's what this agreement will do, was put the final design, final project together for that to be built.
So with that final design, does that give Renner a chance then to re-review the project in the event that there has been more destabilization that has spidered since there?
Absolutely. This is, they'll do their due diligence and design work. They'll be putting their professional stamps on it. So yes, it'll be a comprehensive designed project.
Very good. And that project, will it take it all the way up to the hillside or just down to the lower drainage?
I believe it's going to take it from the current outfall on Tower Court to the bottom of the hill.
Okay. And when they are reviewing, will they also be looking at how that drainage on Tower Road is actually affecting the entire hillside that goes all the way towards the businesses that are being built?
No, that's beyond the scope of this project.
And will they address it then if they find that there is other issues on that hillside? Because I want to make sure before we spend the money on a project that we've been waiting for, that everything has been done correctly so that we don't have to come back and fix the project again because of this very unstable slope.
We believe the scope of this project is adequate, and it'll address the stormwater issues that we're currently having on Tower Court.
Okay. Just to make sure that all that information is updated. If you've had a drive up there today, I think you will probably put this project on hold, and I have some concerns by it, and I don't know if I think the project is ready. So I sure would like to see more attached to this information than what we're seeing today, and that's why I wanted to express my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second? Okay. Motion by Nordstrom, second by Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
I'm taking that you guys are a yes. So 3 in favor, 1 opposed, and my vote would go in favor also. So 1 opposed, Lisa Modrick. Okay. Now we'll go to the Solid Waste Division, number 10. Authorize staff to purchase a new Caterpillar 826K landfill compactor for Rapid City Solid Waste landfill through Sourcewell contract 032515 CAT for a cost of $14,310. Anticipated delivery in February, and I'd like to ask Carl Murbach a couple questions if I could.
Good afternoon, Carl Murbach, Rapid City Solid Waste Superintendent.
Thank you, Carl. So I see we're spending about $750,000 here on a piece of equipment. I would guess that this is very necessary. So tell me a little bit about what we're getting for our investment.
Well, what we are getting, this is a necessary piece of equipment. This is the large piece of equipment. It's the weight, it's the wheels that help us compact the garbage that we put in a landfill. We have limited space, what we call airspace. Our goal, our job is to make sure we get as much in that airspace as possible, and the only way to do that is having the tools to be able to compact that garbage into that space. We look at it as tons per cubic yard in there that we watch, we monitor. Again, this is our useful life. This is how we will extend the life of the landfill. Our space is limited. We just want to be able to make sure that we do put in the maximum amount that we can.
Do you think our recycling efforts are changing at all the expected life of the landfill? I mean, is it slowing it at all?
It's a slow process. We are, again, with our education, a lot of the things that we can do, we can put a blue bin at everybody's residence, but without mandatory, and that's probably the wrong word, to force people to recycle. Again, we are doing the best we can, trying to do that. Just something simple, for example, this past week we had recycling, we have a event recycling program. We had 80 different recycling cans out to Harley-Davidson, and we probably got close to 2.5 to 3 tons of recycling. So every bit helps, but it's more than just that. There are things that we just can't recycle, the markets, the other things, but the efforts continue to make sure that we maximize what we do have.
Okay, and I also noticed that you were purchasing locally, which is really important. I think that maybe you could expand on why we do that.
Well, it is through a national bid. You may have heard in the past the term NJPA. This is just a new name for that national bid list. We are purchasing off of that list. All of our dealings, all of our warranty, all of our work will be done locally with Butler Cat right here in town. So we are looking forward to this. Again, we are looking at probably a useful life of maybe 5 to 8 years. If you want to have a tough environment for a piece of equipment, sit there for 10 hours a day and drive back and forth across anything and everything that people throw in the garbage. But again, this is an investment for us. The things that we are looking at are the local maintenance, the parts. The nice thing for us is we did get an opportunity to go out and visit the production plant in Illinois, all of the parts distribution. So we're very confident that this will be a great piece of equipment for the city in the useful life of the landfill.
I just have to say I was a little shocked by you referencing that this would last 5 to 8 years. I just thought it'd last longer, but $1 million doesn't get you what it used to. So
we hope to extend that out, but again, we go by the number of hours on there, and again, we're going to train our existing equipment. We have anywhere from upwards of 20,000 hours, where 10,000 is a useful life. So we're going to make sure we work and maintain, do the things that we need to do.
I have no doubt you will. Chair recognizes Amanda Scott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd like to ask Mr. Dale Tech a follow-up question on the recycling, since this piece of equipment is being used to try to compact in the landfill, if that's possible.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Dale, just to follow up on the recycling, I believe the question was raised a couple days ago about what percentage of active recycling we have. Can you kind of give us an update on that?
Yeah, we estimate there's approximately 20% of the population that actively recycles. Certainly, we would love to see that number much higher, but once again, we can't force people to recycle. So we're at about that 20%, and that's been a fairly constant, consistent number since we've started our recycling program.
And how long has the recycling program been going on?
2009, 95, or 1995 is when we've initially started up with the blue bag program. In 2003, then went to the curbside containers.
Okay, so, and I know, just like you're saying, we want to make sure that the public knows that the city of Rapid City cannot force you to recycle. It is a good thing to do to maintain our earth and maintain our property and to try to cut down and not have these expensive redos or pieces of equipment in order to have our landfill, because I know we've also, as a city council, seen a lot of things come through for the projects as far as closing out cells within the landfill and also opening up new areas for the landfill so that we can continue to take care of our waste products. But since this has been going on so long, Dale, is there something in the works? Because you either have a carrot or a stick. So is there something in the works to take a look at this program to either incentivize people to get that recycling effort up higher, or maybe raise the rates of, I mean, the carrot would be to incentivize them. The stick would be make the rates for the landfill so expensive that people go, I can save money if I actually recycle.
There's actually a third alternative, and that's what we actively do, and that's public education and outreach. We spend a lot of time in our schools educating kids, and quite frankly, that's the biggest bang for your buck, is to educate our youth about the importance of recycling, reducing, reusing items. You know, those kids can influence their parents, so that's the biggest bang we get for our buck, is the public education and outreach. Certainly we could try to carrot or stick type of approach, but I'm not sure how that would work.
Okay. Well, I know when I talked to, and you know, Jerry Wright was always good for history and everything else, and since Jerry Wright was actively involved in the landfill for a while, you know, Jerry's whole opinion is there's kind of a carrot out there right now anyways, and that is if you actually have a larger garbage can and you actually utilize the blue blue recycling cans and you recycle, you could probably reduce your can size down to about the smaller one, 65-gallon or something like that. And that it would save you $2 or $3 a month, which over the year is $36. So I think we have kind of a carrot program out there. I'm just not sure if it's enough to really entice people. But if you think the kids are going to do it, but we've been doing this education program for a while now, maybe we just have to wait till those kids get a little older and are homeowners themselves, or are in the
1995
in the rental building apartment. So thank you, Dale. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Amanda Scott. Let's see here, Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, if I may make a motion to approve and then retain the floor.
Motion approved by Nordstrom, second by Modrick. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for Carl or Dale, whoever wants to chime in here. Is it appropriate to ask about a tour out there at the landfill to give an educational purpose for the community and also for the council members?
We are open anytime for anyone to come out and tour. I know Dan Kuhn is inviting some of the folks from City Hall to come out a little later this month. But again, we are open anytime. I know Lisa has been out there. Amanda has been out there too. We are open anytime for you to come out and see the things that we are doing to make sure. Again, and would invite you out over the next month or two to come out, and we have the hole pretty much dug. All the dirt that you've seen moving is done, but we are getting ready to start on that liner within the next week or two to start putting that big plastic liner in the bottom.
Thank you, Carl. And that's the next item on the agenda, but where you've passed that on consent. So I think it's appropriate to have council get informed about what's happening out there. So I appreciate the opportunity to get that invite from Dan and or Mr. Kuhn. And so I think it's just a good piece of information to share with not only council members, but with the public as well. And what this piece of equipment that we're specifically talking about today, what it does and how it operates. And I want to applaud the staff as well, the maintenance staff particularly, for doing the maintenance job that they've been doing on that current piece of equipment and how they've extended the life on it. So kudos to everyone that's been involved with making that piece of equipment last as long as it has, and it's well beyond its useful life, so thank you.
Carl, I have a quick follow-up question, too. So say that we do something that actually makes recycling more possible or popular or whatever, and somehow the recycling materials that you got doubled within the next 2 years, would you have the capacity to be able to process that?
Yes, we do have the process to, part of our concerns and around the country is making sure that we have the markets there for the materials that we have. The plastics, the aluminum, the steel. We want to make sure that those markets are there, but no, we do have the capacity where we could handle more. Unfortunately, when you look at it, we are a source-separated recycling program. That means the only way we can process those recyclables if they are sorted at the source. In your blue bin, the drop-off, other private haulers that bring in material, if that ends up in the garbage, there is just no way that we have the time, the manpower, or the facilities to separate it out of that.
Thank you very much. The motion on the floor is to approve. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And we've spent some money on a new landfill Caterpillar compactor. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay. Now that takes us to non-consent items, items 14 and 15. So item 14 has been withdrawn. I don't know if I need to do anything more on this, but go ahead, Dale, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Staff would recommend that the motion would be to acknowledge the applicant's withdrawal of the requested variance.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Nordstrom and second by Roberts to accept the withdrawal. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed? And item 14 is withdrawn. We go on to item 15 now, which is a presentation from Rapid Transit Division, and that's Rich Sagan and Megan Gould.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Sure.
I would like to introduce, actually we have two Rapid Transit Division managers here today. Rich is retiring this October, and Megan will be taking over at Rapid Transit, so that's why they're both here today.
And a sigh of relief, I see. So. Anyway, what I'd like to do today is provide you a little bit of background on the Rapid Transit system, kind of tell you about who we are, what we do, and the history of the organization. So with no further ado, I'll get started. The city began as a general public transit service back in 1983, and we were an offshoot of an organization called Western South Dakota Transportation Authority, which included some of the communities in the Black Hills and the outlying area. At that time, Rapid City was transitioning into an urbanized area, so we kind of didn't really have a transit service, and the outlying areas provided service from smaller communities to Rapid City. And just an interesting trivia point, Kevin Brady, who is now the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee in Congress, was on that Western South Dakota Transportation Board along with myself, and he was kind of the impetus of dissolving that board because they had all types of financial issues. Never could raise their local match, just issue after issue after issue. So once that was basically dissolved, the state of South Dakota came to Rapid City and said, hey, there's a need for service here. Can you guys fill the void and take over? So that's how Rapid City became involved in transit. When we initially started, we had two vans that we sort of, I would say maybe stole, that's probably not the best term, from Canyon Lake Senior Citizen Center. And those were old Econoline vans, and we used like a little stair step for people to get on the vehicle. So we've come a long way since then. In 1985, we expanded to 4 vehicles. In 1992, we went from a general public dial-a-ride service to fixed route service in July of 1992, and then had the complimentary ADA paratransit service that we have today. In 2007, we added the seasonal trolley service. We have 3 vehicles there. We used to have 2 peak pull-out vehicles. We're down to 1 now. We feel we're just as efficient with 1 as we were when we had 2. So Currently, the service we have now, we operate Monday through Friday from 6:20 in the morning till 5:50 in the evening. Saturdays from 9:50 until 4:40. No evening service, no Sunday service at this point in time. We have 6 fixed routes. Service frequency is 35 minutes, and we operate about 560 to 565,000 miles a year out on the street. So we put quite a few miles on the vehicles during the year. We also have school tripper routes in addition to the 6 fixed routes, and one goes to Southwest, and we go out to Terra Sancta for St. Elizabeth Seton schools. We've been doing these for around 8 to 10 years with the tripper service. As far as the organization is concerned, we have a staff level of 31 FTEs, which equates to about 44 employees with part-times, temporary, seasonal, that type of a situation. Our operating budget is $2.2 million, and we have a fleet size of 37 vehicles. That's revenue vehicles, and we have some support vehicles as well. In terms of funding, we receive about $1.2 million in FTA funds annually, and we have to apply for those funds directly through FTA to get those dollars. They don't just come here, we actually apply for them. We also receive fare box and advertising revenues, and that'll probably equate to about $385,000 to $390,000 for 2018 projected. So we expect to provide over 450,000 trips in 2018. And so far to date, when we started the youth program in September of 16 through July 31st of this year, we've provided 221,736 youth trips. So that program's been very successful. Additional responsibilities, we provide management of the Milo Barber Transportation Building, which includes buildings and grounds, snow removal, lawn, that type of thing. We also have our bus storage facility down on Center Street, and we're responsible for that facility as well. We have the city parking lot and enterprise fund, and we maintain and monitor the surveillance camera system within the parking garage. We also have all the other 7 city parking lots. And I work directly with the parking enforcement ladies, or staff, I should say, pretty kind of much on a daily basis. We're responsible for their budget, and they'll bring in receipts for items they purchase and such. So we've got a real good working relationship with them. And with that being said, I'd like to turn this over to Megan, and she has a few words she'd like to say. Thank you.
I just wanted to officially introduce myself. I'm Megan Gould. As Dale said, I am the Rapid Transit Division Manager once Rich retires in October. And I just want to say I am very excited for this position. I'm ready to learn a lot and excited to also work with all of you. So thank you.
We have some questions, so Rich, you might want to come back. Comments, questions, salutations. Chair recognizes Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I want to congratulate you on retirement. You've had a lot of years of service, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy that time while you're driving the streets and not looking at your buses to make sure they're running their routes.
Exactly.
So with that, are there any handoffs that you're doing for Megan on new routes to be designed for 2019 and beyond? I know one of the big topics has been the buzzword of food deserts and needing more transportation from some of those locations into areas where food is needed, as well as an expansion of areas where kids maybe are not getting to school, they're just missing the outside outreach on that, and I know we're going to continue that program. Or any other routes that you see as this department has grown and your services have grown that is going to be infused into our community?
Well, to answer the question, there was a study that was completed recently, and I know Richie was involved in that, and it looked at feasibility of providing service in some of the outlying areas, such as Rapid Valley, Box Elder, Somerset, Black Hawk, and the consultant made some recommendations, which at this point in time, they really looked at it as maybe a ride-sharing or a van pooling type program. They did look at maybe some express routes that would go out there that would go out at specific times during the day, and then they attached some dollars to that to operate it. So the real big issue is always the funding of this. And who comes up with the local share? We also have a limited federal amount of money that we really need to be cognizant of so we don't put ourselves in a situation where we expend all our federal dollars and then come back and say we need to overmatch because we don't have the federal money to get this accomplished. So the City Council's position has always been to maintain a strong core service, and I think we've done a good job of that over the years. With that being said, clearly there's some demand from some outlying areas. I was contacted yesterday by the Economic Development Group and Ben Snow's group, and they have several businesses out in the industrial park out there that have a need for employees that they can't get employees because they have no transportation. So they want to meet in the next couple of weeks and just sit down and explore some opportunities. With Tiki out there is the same situation. They have a lot of employees that work out there that are maybe in housekeeping, whatever, and they don't have access to transportation either. Over the last several years, we've had inquiries from people living in Rapid Valley regarding the Rapid Valley schools, or also parents that have kids that are maybe ninth graders going to Central that live in the valley have difficulty getting their kids to school. I met a couple weeks ago with Votech regarding their campus out there and what we could do in the future. We talked a little bit about what's happened in the past, and we said if there's a demand out there, the city would certainly try to meet it. But clearly the position has been in the past that any area outside the city limits, there would have to be county participation or whatever to provide some of the local funds to do that. And the council can make that decision. They can decide that, no, we want this service and we'd fund it, but typically the position has been that if it's outside the city limits, somebody's got to come up with a local share to do it.
That'll be great for Ms. Gold to move forward with those meetings that you have, the open conversations and discussions, and connecting with the industry that's out there, because we need that workforce to have the jobs and to get them there, and perhaps partnerships could be it with economic development as well as the industry.
I think that's going to be very interesting because when I talked to them yesterday, they said that they're willing to come with private money to make this thing work. And they see, we really see the need, and I think they're looking at really stepping up to do something. And I did ask them, I said, are you looking at traditional business hours like 8 to 5, that type of thing? Are we looking at, split shifts or graveyard shifts, that type of thing? They said no, they recognize what our limitations may be. So I think they have a pretty good, clear idea of what may work. It'll be interesting to see what they bring forward. But we're going to meet in a couple weeks and go over this. So
that is excellent.
I won't make any
news.
promises either. I'm just there to listen. So
you'll pass the promises on to Ms. Gold so she can.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Again, congratulations for both of you. And I am done.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few comments to Mr. Sagan and Ms. Gold. Rich, again, thank you very much for all your service to the city. And I know there was some times that we agreed, some times that we didn't agree. So I appreciate your patience going with me to different meetings around the city and participating in all the activities that we just mentioned just recently. And so thank you for all of your time and patience. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
And on to Ms. Gold. You kind of get a flavor or a taste of or a sample for what's to come. So I'll be calling upon you because I do meet a lot of business people out there that are eager for some support. And Rich gave us an update on what's been happening with the possible or potential funding from the private sector. So I'm all about public-private partnerships, and if we can get that moved forward, let's try to see what we can work out.
Of course.
And I know Rich will be handling a lot of that detail. So I got a question for both of you. Rich, will you be called in after you retire, or are you going fishing?
I've spoken with Dale about this very topic, and I've agreed to, over the course of the next several months, to assist Megan in the transition, and also with some of the things that are coming up that we really need to be addressed. I made a point of getting out in front on a lot of the federal requirements, so that's something that's not going to be a crisis right when I leave. So I will have availability, whether it's via phone or here in person. So.
Thank you. And the other question will be in the future for Megan, if you will, for you in the future, I need to get some more education on how the federal funding grants process works a little bit. I need a little bit more assistance and and guidance on how that operates. So,
Okay.
and then if I may, switch over to parking. You mentioned that you're responsible for some of the parking. Remind me when we get to see some of those initial reports or initial studies that are going in the process right now through the parking meters that we're seeing downtown?
That is not part of my responsibility.
Is not.
My
Okay.
responsibility is basically dealing with the budget and also security cameras and reviewing those. We get requests frequently from the police department. A detective will call and say, hey, there was an incident, you have the cameras on this, and there's some interesting things that happen in there for sure.
Just the budget
So I'm
only.
responsible for
Yeah.
that, and then also for the maintenance and snow removal, that type of thing on all the parking lots. So we manage those contracts as well and work with the contractors.
Okay, very good. Good to know. Thank you. Thank you both.
Just a little comment to Ms. Gould. I think that one of your challenges will be to figure out some of our transportation for the new Civic Center, because that's going to be something that's on the horizon as to how we're going to get people back and forth. So we'll be seeing you a lot in the future on that particular item. So thank you both for your service and for your presentation today. I need an acknowledgement from the council. Move to acknowledge by Scott, second by Modrick. All acknowledging, say aye. All right. Okay, a motion to adjourn by Nordstrom. Second? Second? No? Okay, we're going to just stay here. Second by Scott. All in favor? Aye. And we stand adjourned.